The sun dipped over the Tuscan hills, casting gold over Villadoro, the place where Isabella Moretti's dream would begin and end. She arrived in a white convertible, her smile reflecting every promise of the life she was about to start. Inside, the air smelled of lavender and secrets. Ethan held her hand, their fingers intertwined like vines across time. Everything looked perfect. But sometimes perfection hides its own decay. How does a woman walk into her wedding week with love in her heart and leave without it beating? Why did no one notice the silence in room 214 until it was too late? Dinner stretched into twilight, laughter echoing through the courtyard. The villa glowed like something out of a dream. Isabella couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching her. The eyes of portraits along the walls seemed to follow her every move. Ethan brushed her hand and whispered, "You're safe here." But his words felt like a promise he couldn't keep. As wine flowed and music rose, Isabella's smile hid her unease. The fairy tale had begun, but she could already sense it wasn't meant to last. Later, Isabella wandered through the villa's corridors alone. The marble floors glimmered under candlelight, and the sound of her footsteps echoed like whispers. At the end of the hall, she found a locked door. Old, heavy, and unmarked. She tugged once, twice. It didn't move. Behind it, she thought she heard something faint, a soft humming, maybe a woman's voice. Then, silence. When she turned back, a shadow passed across the far wall, gone before she could breathe. Outside, the Tuscan night shimmered with crickets and distant thunder. Ethan stood near the fountain, phone pressed to his ear, voice low and sharp. Isabella watched from the balcony above, heart tightening. "You said it'd be handled before she arrived," he hissed into the receiver. The sound of breaking glass made him glance up. She ducked away, too late. Their eyes met for an instant, the moment stretching into something wordless and dangerous. Below, the fountain's water rippled, a mirror catching secrets. When she finally returned to their room, the air felt heavier. A bouquet of roses waited on the dresser, petals bruised as though handled too roughly. Ethan entered moments later, smiling too easily. "You should rest," he said. His tone was gentle, but something in his eyes flickered. Guilt, maybe fear. Isabella turned away, her reflection in the mirror split by the lamp's shadow. She didn't know it yet, but this would be the last peaceful night of her life. The night before the wedding arrived, cloaked in perfection. Lanterns flickered along the villa's courtyard, laughter drifted through the warm air, and Isabella told herself that happiness was finally hers. Yet behind the candlelit smiles, something colder lurked. She noticed Ethan's distant eyes, his quiet phone calls, and the way he avoided her touch when he thought she wasn't looking. The evening was beautiful, but beauty can lie. Outside, thunder echoed across the Tuscan hills. A storm was coming, and it would not be kind. Later that night, as the wind began to rise, Isabella searched for Ethan and found him on the terrace. He was arguing, in hushed, angry tones, with a stranger whose face remained hidden in the dark. Their voices were swallowed by thunder, but she caught fragments. "Money. Don't do this. Tomorrow changes everything." She froze, too afraid to interrupt. When lightning flashed, she saw the stranger's hand on Ethan's shoulder, not in friendship, but warning. Then both men disappeared inside. Rain fell hard by midnight. Isabella sat alone in room 214, her wedding dress hanging on the door. She told herself Ethan was just nervous, that love always comes with storms. But her heart felt heavy, her thoughts racing back to that stranger. A knock came at her door. When she opened it, no one was there. Only a folded note on the floor. It read, "He's not who you think he is." Downstairs, Elena Rossi instructed the staff to lock every door for the night. Her voice was calm, but her eyes darted toward the stairs leading to room 214. She told Sophia the storm would pass soon, yet her hands trembled. as she poured wine. Outside, lightning illuminated the courtyard. In one brief flash, a figure could be seen moving near the hedge. Tall, male, coat soaked with rain. Then darkness returned, swallowing everything. At 2:47 a.m., the villa fell silent. Rain softened to a whisper. Somewhere in the hallway, a door creaked open. Isabella, half asleep, thought she heard footsteps, slow, deliberate, just beyond her door. Then came a faint thud, followed by running water in the bathroom next to hers. She called Ethan's name, but only the wind replied. When she opened the door to room 214's balcony, a single wedding shoe lay in the puddle outside. It wasn't hers. By sunrise, the storm had passed, but Ethan hadn't returned. Isabella's calls went unanswered, his belongings untouched. The villa, once alive with wedding chatter, now felt hollow. When the police arrived, Detective Luca Ferraro moved through the hallways like a ghost chasing another. He studied Isabella's trembling hands, the wet footprints outside room 214, and the missing guest book. She whispered, "He wouldn't leave me." But Luca had seen enough brides say the same words, and too many never saw the truth coming. The villa transformed into a stage for questioning. One by one, the guests became suspects. Sophia insisted Ethan was fine, that he probably needed space. Elena kept avoiding eye contact, claiming she'd heard nothing unusual. Isabella's world was spinning. In the reflection of a wine glass, she saw herself, pale, hollow-eyed, no longer the bride she was yesterday. Luca's gaze caught hers, steady and knowing. "Something happened in that room," he said quietly. "The question is, who was there?" Room 214 was sealed, but Luca stepped in anyway. The scent of lavender had faded, replaced by something metallic and faintly sweet. On the white sheets, a small stain bloomed, crimson against silk. A broken glass lay by the nightstand. Isabella followed him inside, her face drained of color. "That wasn't here last night," she whispered. Luca nodded slowly, his eyes tracing the floor to the balcony. "Maybe not," he murmured, "but someone was." Security footage from the villa's gate showed only fragments. At 3:12 a.m., a figure in a dark coat left the property. Face hidden, stride, hurried. The camera flickered, then cut to static. When Luca replayed the frame, Isabella leaned forward, her breath quickening. "That's him," she said. "That's Ethan." Luca paused. The figure's height matched Ethan's, but something about the posture felt wrong. The coat was too long, the walk too uneven. "Maybe," Luca said softly, "or maybe someone wanted you to think that." That evening, Luca returned to the terrace where Ethan was last seen. The storm had left everything clean, too clean. A glint near the hedge caught his attention. He crouched and found a small gold cufflink half buried in the mud. Engraved initials, E.W. He pocketed it quietly before Isabella could see. Above, the sky burned orange, the same color as the morning she arrived, when she still believed in happy endings. Now, the villa felt like a place built not for weddings, but for ghosts. The villa no longer echoed with laughter, only whispers and footsteps that stopped when Isabella entered. She sat at the breakfast table untouched, staring into a cup of cold coffee. Her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number appeared. "Ask about Rome?" Her pulse spiked. Rome. The place Ethan swore he'd never returned to. Detective Luca noticed her trembling hands. "Something you need to tell me?" he asked. She shook her head, but inside a crack had opened wide enough for fear to pour through. Later, Luca returned from town with news. Ethan had been involved in several lawsuits, and a woman in Rome had filed one of them. Isabella stared at the file, her breath shallow. The woman's name was Giulia Mancini, and in the photo, she was wearing the same necklace Ethan had given Isabella last Christmas. "Did you know her?" Luca asked. Tears welled up, silent and furious. Love had blinded her, and now truth cut sharper than any blade. That night, Isabella confronted Sophia in the courtyard. "You knew, didn't you?" she cried. Sophia tried to deny it, but her voice trembled. She confessed she'd seen messages between Ethan and Julia months ago, that she had warned him to tell Isabella before the wedding. "He said he would fix it," Sophia whispered. "He said he loved you." Rain began to fall again, soft and relentless. Isabella turned away, her heart cracking with every drop. While reviewing Ethan's things, Luca found an envelope hidden behind the villa's bathroom mirror. Bank documents, forged signatures, and a key with the initials R.R. Elena Rossi. He glanced toward her office door. The villa owner, who insisted she barely knew the groom. Lies layered over lies. Luca's jaw tightened. "Maybe the wedding wasn't the only thing Ethan planned here," he muttered, sliding the key into his pocket. Outside, thunder rolled again, as if the storm was returning for what it left behind. That night, Luca searched Elena's private office. Drawers locked, safe sealed, until he found a hidden panel behind a painting. Inside, a folder labeled Walker Contract. Inside were payment records, witness signatures, and one damning detail: a transfer made the night before Ethan vanished. When Luca looked up, Elena stood in the doorway, silent. Her eyes, calm and cold, met his. "Be careful, detective," she said softly. "This villa protects its own." The following morning, the villa felt emptier, as though the walls themselves were holding their breath. Isabella couldn't sleep. She replayed every moment of that last night with Ethan, wondering what she missed. Downstairs, Luca waited, his expression unreadable. "We found something," he said. In his hand was the cufflink again, but cleaned, polished, and wrapped in a cloth embroidered with Sophia's initials. The room tilted around Isabella. She was with him that night, wasn't she? Luca didn't answer. He didn't need to. Luca found Sophia near the chapel ruins, sitting alone, wine bottle beside her. She didn't flinch when he approached. "You already know, don't you?" she said. Her voice cracked. "He came to my room that night. He said he couldn't marry her, that he'd ruin her if she didn't help him." Tears streaked her cheeks. "I slapped him and he fell." Luca's breath caught. "Fell?" She nodded, but he got up. He was bleeding, angry. "I left him there." Her voice trembled. "He was alive when I left, I swear." When Isabella learned the truth, she didn't scream. She simply sat on the villa's terrace, staring at the horizon. "He hurt her too," she whispered, voice thin. Luca placed a hand on her shoulder. "Ethan wasn't who you thought he was?" She nodded. "None of us are." Silence hung between them, fragile as glass. Then Luca added, "There's still one thing missing. The body." Isabella's eyes filled with quiet dread. "Then find him," she said, "because I need to know who I buried my heart for." That evening, Luca brought Sophia back inside for an official statement. Elena watched from the corridor, her expression cold and measured. "You're making a mistake," she murmured as Luca walked past. "Am I?" he replied. "Someone's been lying since the start." In the dim parlor, Sophia confessed everything. Her jealousy, the fight, the fall. But when Luca asked about the blood in room 214, she hesitated. "That wasn't his," she whispered. "It was mine." Her voice cracked into sobs as she clutched her arm, revealing a faint scar. That night, Luca pieced together the timeline. Ethan's debts, Sophia's heartbreak, Elena's hidden payments. But one piece didn't fit. The door logs showed room 214 unlocked again at 3:30 a.m. after Sophia left. Someone had gone back. Luca walked down the hallway, stopping before Elena's private door. Inside, faint music played, an old Italian love song. He knocked once. "Come in, detective," her voice called, calm and knowing. He entered slowly, realizing she had been waiting for this moment All along, Elena poured 2 glasses of wine, her movements slow and deliberate. "He was desperate," she said, voice soft as silk. "Ethan came to me the night before the wedding. He wanted to sell the villa deeds forged in my name." Luca froze. "And you refused?" Elena smiled faintly. "I refused to let him disgrace my home." Her gaze turned distant. "He begged. Then he fell, not by my hand, but by his own greed." Luca's jaw tightened. "Where is he now, Elena?" Her answer was a whisper that chilled the air. "Where he chose to stay." Luca followed Elena to the old cellar beneath the villa, a place she called La Cripta dei Segreti. The air was thick with damp earth and time. At the end of the corridor stood a locked door. Elena stopped, her expression unreadable. "He wanted to fake his death," she said. "He thought the storm would hide his escape. But someone found him first." She turned the key and stepped aside. Inside, a suitcase sat open beside muddy footprints. Luca's flashlight caught something glinting, a blood-stained ring. The ring was Ethan's. But when Isabella saw it, she whispered, "It's not his." Confusion rippled across Luca's face. She turned the band in her hand. Inside, an engraving. "To S." Her voice trembled. He was going to propose again. To her. The room seemed to shrink. Sophia's confession had been half-truth. Elena's words half-lie. Everyone had touched the truth, but no one had held it. The only constant was the silence of the dead. "Orio de Nasrani. Luca returned to the cliffs near the villa, tracing the path through wet grass where the storm had torn the ground apart. A flash of white fabric caught his eye between the rocks. He climbed down, heart pounding. There, tangled in vines and mud, lay Ethan's watch, still ticking faintly. Nearby, something else glimmered. A small silver hairpin, identical to one Isabella had worn the night she arrived. Luca stared at it, realization dawning. Someone had followed Ethan that night, and it wasn't Elena. He returned to the villa and found Isabella in the garden, staring into the fountain. "You were there, weren't you?" he asked quietly. She didn't deny it. "He begged me not to marry him," she said. "He said he'd disappear. I followed him outside. I wanted to make him stay." Her eyes glistened with tears. "He slipped, and I couldn't save him." The wind stirred the cypress trees as Luca lowered his gaze. "You did save him," he said softly. "You saved him from himself." But even he didn't fully believe it. Morning crept across Tuscany, quiet and colorless. Police lines circled the cliffs where Ethan's body had been found. Isabella stood nearby, her veil wrapped around her arm like a shroud. Luca watched her as the forensic team worked in silence. The storm had revealed what the wedding tried to hide: a man broken by secrets and a woman forced to live with them. "Was it love?" she whispered. "Or just a beautiful lie?" The wind carried her words away before he could answer. Back at the villa, the guests had all gone. The courtyard lay empty, chairs overturned, flowers wilted. Isabella packed her things in silence. On the table she found the guest book, the one that had been missing when she arrived. Flipping it open, she froze. The first page read, "To my future wife, Isabella. No matter what happens, remember I loved you in my own way." The handwriting was Ethan's. A single tear dropped onto the ink, smudging it forever. Luca filed the report that afternoon. "Death by accidental fall," the official record read. But when he looked at the evidence bag containing Ethan's ring and cufflink, he hesitated. Truth and justice rarely align. Sometimes, he thought, they were enemies. He sealed the envelope and slipped it into a drawer marked "Closed Cases." Then, quietly, he struck a match and burned his handwritten notes. Every line that told the story too clearly. Before leaving Italy, Isabella walked one last time through Villa d'Oro. The halls were empty, echoes following her every step. She paused in front of the locked door to room 214 and laid a small bouquet of wildflowers on the floor. "Goodbye," she whispered. For a moment, she thought she heard footsteps inside, the faint rustle of fabric, a breath against the wood. But when she opened her eyes, there was only silence and the faint scent of lavender. Months later, back in New York, Isabella uploaded her final blog entry, a photo of a Tuscan sunset captioned, "Not every story ends with forever, but some leave you changed enough to begin again." She closed her laptop and looked out her apartment window, the city lights shimmering like distant fireflies. Behind her on the shelf sat a small framed photo of her and Ethan, taken on their first trip together. She smiled faintly, not with love, but with forgiveness.